You have no control over who asks questions, right? No ability. Anybody can ask questions. Okay, can I ask my question? I'm done. Then we'll get done.
In Montreal in late fall, there was an absolute monstrous mob going around smashing windows, lighting fires, and doing Hail Hitler symbols. We've had Jewish daycares attacked. We've had Jewish schools that have bullets fly through their windows in the middle of the night. We've had synagogues firebombed. Well, I just gave you a bunch of examples, sir. And
Why are none of those covered in the newspaper?
no, I don't control the newspaper, sir. And I don't intend to. I don't want to live in a country where politicians control the newspapers. I believe in freedom of speech. And it's a privilege to be here with your incredible group of Zoomers and Boomers and CARP members. I know we're supposed to be addressing the Canadian Association of Retired Persons, which brings back memories for me, Moses, from my very first campaign event. I was out, what do you do when you want to run for office? The first place you go to is a senior's home. Because, of course, as Moses said, seniors have a habit of voting. And so I remember I arrived, and we'd been making a little bit of noise around the community, so I thought maybe I was getting well known, and maybe they'd already recognized me. So I walked in the door, very proud, chest puffed out. I walked up to a resident in the senior's home, and I said, "Do you know who I am?" She said, "No, but if you ask the nurse, she'll tell you who you are." I have to tell you why and who I am, what motivates me, what's inside that will thrust me forward and drive my decisions at the big desk, should Canadians give me that responsibility. I don't come from a famous or wealthy background. I was born to a 16-year-old single mom. She put me up for adoption to a couple of school teachers from Saskatchewan who'd started anew in Calgary. And, you know, from that humble place, we had a lot of hardship. Our folks lost, my mother had been scrimping and saving through her 20s. She managed to buy a home and then 2 other rental properties. And then along came 18% interest rates, and they lost everything. And so we had to start from scratch. Those are my earliest memories. My parents stressed, sometimes fighting, worried about how they'd pay the bills. My dad trying to make his old Oldsmobile function, even though it was always falling apart. But they taught me during those hard times that this was a country that made a promise. A very simple deal. It's not kind of the American dream, which is kind of something you wake up from. A promise is actually way better than a dream. A promise is a contract. You do this, you get that. The good news is there's nothing wrong with this country that we cannot fix by the foundations that came before us. Getting back to the common sense principles, the back to basics ideas of living within our means, leaving more in the pockets of the people, a government that is servant and not master, accountability for criminals, locking up the worst offenders so that we can be safe, restoring an immigration system that puts our country and its people first and brings in newcomers only in numbers that we can house, employ, and care for, and only by selection of those that are a good fit for our country. These are all basic things we did for generations with no serious controversy. And that is how the Canadian Promise was born. We're a country that has always been practical in solving its problems and determined to give the next generation a better life than the one came before us. But it means that we as a government need to ensure that our seniors are rewarded for their hard work, their thrift, and their savings. And we have tangible plans to do it. First and foremost, let me say clearly and unequivocally, Conservatives will preserve the age of retirement for CPP, OAS, and GIS at age 65, period. We will also protect pensions. It was our party that put forward private members' legislation to ensure that in the case of large-scale corporate bankruptcies, that pensioners always get 100% paid out before the bondholders get their share of the bankrupted, liquidated assets. Furthermore, we recognize that our seniors have a lot of wisdom and ingenuity and mentorship to offer the next generation in our workforce. Some seniors make the decision to stay in the workforce. They enjoy working, they stay busy, it helps them contribute. They are under high demand because they know things that the next generation does not yet know. And I know when you turn 65, Moses, there'll be a lot of demands on you to stay in the workforce. It'll be a little while before that day comes, but nevertheless, it will indeed. So you'll be very happy with the next policy announcement I have, and it is this, that a Conservative government will honor and reward the hard work of seniors by keeping your first $34,000 of earnings completely tax-free. We will also, for those seniors who want to continue to grow their savings for a longer period of time, we will allow you to keep your RSPs for an extra 2 years, during which time you can compound and grow your savings. After the recent attempt by the Liberal government to hike capital gains tax, an attempt that they will, despite their sudden last-minute claims to the contrary, reintroduce if, God forbid, they're re-elected, we will go in exactly the opposite direction. We will pass the Canada First Reinvestment Tax Cut. Very simple principle for this tax cut. It is this: you'll pay zero capital gains tax as long as all the proceeds of the sale are reinvested in Canada. Bring it home. We will also secure our borders with high-powered scanners, watchtowers, 2,000 more CBSA officers on the front line, and we will pay for that by canceling the ridiculous gun grab that goes after licensed, law-abiding, trained and tested sport shooters and hunters, the people who are least likely to commit a crime. We know this because criminals don't go and get a license to buy a firearm. That is the purview of our uncles and our grandfathers who enjoy hunting. Grandpa Joe's hunting rifle is not the problem. Our foreign policy will again be principled. No longer will we play the divisive game of the last 10 years where Liberals go and say to one group one thing and then to another group they say precisely the opposite in the hopes of stoking divisions and then profiting from them. We will defend Israel's right to protect itself and preserve its existence as a Jewish state. We'll unite our country. We'll unite our country around our common purpose, that when you come here, you're a Canadian first. Sure, you can have cultures and traditions and religions. That's none of the government's business. People can enjoy whatever traditions they like. You can even have political opinions that disagree with your neighbors. That's fine too. There's nothing wrong with squabbling and debating and arguing. But this will be a country where you come and park the violent conflict at the door. If you want to be a Canadian, put our flag first and support all the blessings of this land.
First, we're going to get to Lucas, so bear with me, please. Thank you. I know, I understand.
Hi there. Over the course of your career, who that you've encountered is most similar to President Trump, and how did you deal with them?
Pierre Poilevre.
I don't think there's anyone who's quite like him. I mean, I think he's a different cat. But the reality is you have to respond with strength. If you're weak, you show weakness, then he seizes on weakness. And that's why he likes the Liberal Party so much. He said he wants the Liberals to be reelected because they're weak. And he said they'll be easier to deal with. And they've done nothing but project weakness. So we need to respond with strength, real strength. And we will do, I will do exactly the opposite of everything that the Liberals have done to weaken our economy and our relative position. We will be a strong economy. We will unleash our resources by improving pipelines, mines, data centers, power stations, export plants to take our resources away from America. We will also bring in axe the capital gains tax on any money that's reinvested in Canada, which will create a powerful incentive to repatriate all the capital that has gone south of the border. I want to bring it home. We'll rebuild our military so that we can stand on our own 2 feet and protect our territory and waters instead of relying on the Americans.
No, John said no.
You have no control over who asks questions, right? No ability.
Anybody can ask questions.
Okay, can I ask my question?
I'm done.
Then we'll get done.
Whoever wants to answer that. Marissa, whoever you want to answer the question, I'm happy to take questions from anyone.
Disruptive. We're giving you an opportunity to ask a question now. Go ahead.
Okay, well, that's all right.
Mr. Poilevre,
Yes, sir.
you said something very...
Sir, can you speak here? I'm going to just...
Here, take the microphone so I can hear the gentleman.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Poilevre, you said something very interesting and to me.
Yes.
You twice mentioned anti-Semitic riots. Now, I do remember that in the 30s there was a very large anti-Semitic riot led by Nazis during the growth of the Nazis, and it was in downtown Toronto. I don't see, or I haven't seen, maybe I missed it, where and when the anti-Semitic riots of recent time have happened. Do you remember the places or the dates or times when these anti-Semitic riots that you mentioned took place?
Yes, happy to. Downtown Vancouver, they had a miniature riot right outside a coffee shop where I was speaking, targeting me because I've been a defender of the Jewish people. They've happened in downtown Toronto. In Montreal, in the late fall, there was an absolute monstrous mob going around smashing windows, lighting fires, and doing Hail Hitler symbols. We've had Jewish daycares attacked. We've had Jewish schools that have bullets fly through their windows in the middle of the night. We've had synagogues firebombed. Well, I just gave you a bunch of examples, sir. And
why are none of those covered in the newspapers?
no, I don't control the newspapers. I don't control the newspapers, sir, and I don't intend to. I don't want to live in a country where politicians control the newspapers. I believe in freedom of speech. But my mission is to, when I become Prime Minister, to ensure that there are no anti-Semitic riots for the newspapers to write about. Let's make this a safe country again.
All right. How about one more round of applause for the Leader of the Opposition, the Conservative Party leader?